Good evening. Good evening. By way of introduction, my name is Davis Fields. I am the chair of the Campbell Planning Commission and I'd like to call to order this meeting of the commission on June 23rd, 2026.
Commissioner Scissor,
Here.
Commissioner Campcarp,
Here.
Commissioner Alney,
Here.
Commissioner Buckbinder,
Present.
Vice Chair Aquino,
Present.
absent, and Chair Fields.
Present. First item is the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes and are there any corrections?
I have a few notes. Sorry.
Yeah.
On the parks presentation, there were a few things that were brought up that aren't reflected in the minutes. One, that we are indeed under parked in the sense of city parks, but if you count county parks as well, we are well above the 3 acres per 1,000 residents goal. And additionally, there's some notes there about the burden of cost to the individual. The comparative burdens are we can do a one-time charge of about $12,000 for every new person who comes to town, or we can charge every parcel about $35 a year. Like, that's the actual burden. I think that should be noted in the minutes. That's what I have.
Okay.
You want that noted as your comments?
Sure.
Anything else for the minutes?
Yeah, can I ask, how do you know what you just said to be true?
Math. I added up the amount that they had gotten over the last 5 to 7 years. I know we have about 17,000 parcels in the city. Do a little multiplication, a little division. That's what it comes out to.
Okay, but that would tell you what they received, but what they received was insufficient to meet the stated goal, correct?
So what they received was an
I
amount
think
of
we
money.
should stick on the minute modification. So,
Okay.
yeah, we good?
That is if the burden had been moved, that's what the burden would have been. That's the thing I want to make sure we all know.
Would someone make a motion with the amended comments that we just discussed?
I would.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Ken, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Scissor,
Aye.
Commissioner Campcarp.
Aye.
Commissioner Alney,
Aye.
Commissioner Buckbinder,
Aye.
Chair Fields.
Aye. Communications, agenda modifications, Director Eastwood, do we have any of these?
Chair Fields, all commissioners know, agenda modifications, a note to the commission, you received 2 public comments. One was earlier today, one City Planner Daniel Fama pushed out after 5. Just want to make sure you received those. Yep. Nothing additional.
Great. Okay, oral requests. This is the part of the meeting where any member of the public may address the commission on an item that is not on the agenda. You may speak for up to 5 minutes, but please be aware state law prohibits the commission from acting on non-agendized items that may come up today. So the planning commission will not take any action on anything that is spoken in this time, but the chair can refer the matter to staff to research and possibly place on the agenda for a future meeting. I understand we have one person who wants to speak in oral requests.
Susan Landry.
Good evening, Honorable Planning Commission. Am I your favorite public speaker so far? Anyways, I have a handout here. So you guys have subcommittees. I have a recommendation for you for a subcommittee. How many of you have a home occupation permit or business license? Any of you guys? No? Okay. So I have a home occupation. I've invented a board game. I got a new business license. Prior to me getting a business license, I was allowed to work in my living room. But now that I have a business license, I'm not allowed to work anywhere but one room in my house. I cannot sit on my couch in my living room and check my email because I'm conducting business. My client called me up and asked me, can I swing by and drop off your check and stop and have a cup of coffee and talk about your job? No, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to come to my house because I have a business license that says I'm not allowed to have a meeting in my house. I live in an ADU. I've bragged about living in my 400 square feet. And part of my 400 square feet goes out my door into the garage. My storage cabinet for all my office supplies is in the garage. I can't do that anymore. I am not allowed to be in my garage with my business as I'm working. So a music instructor is allowed to have one person come at one time. They can play the trombone or banjo or piano outside my window on the other side of the fence. They can have one per hour from 9 to 9, and I'm not allowed to have my guy drop off a check. But because he plays music, he can do that. I'm not allowed to make any noise coming out of my property, but my neighbor can someone visit and play their music. I'm not allowed to use my garage. I think I told you that. I'm not allowed to use my closet because it's in the garage. I'm not allowed to sit out in my yard on my brand new little bistro table and drink my coffee and read my email because I'm conducting business. Let's see, what else can't I do? This whole list is interesting. Now, who's going to find me? Who's going to turn me in? Good question, but I signed this statement saying I won't do these. I have to attest to this that I will not do this, but no one's going to enforce it. So why are the rules still on the book? So I came in, I talked to Stephen. Oh yeah, this hasn't been changed since 2006. I think the only update is it used to say piano instruction, and now it says music is allowed. So also attached to my handout is what San Jose has, which is a lot more realistic. You're allowed to have 2 people in your room to have a meeting. I'm allowed to have my storage in my accessory shed. I'm allowed to be in my garage. I'm allowed to have 2 people in a meeting, on and on. Now, the only thing San Jose does say is you can't be in your yard. So again, I can't sit outside on my bistro table with my laptop and check my email because I'm technically conducting business. But what's interesting, if I work from home and I'm employed by someone else and I work from home, I can do all those things. I can use my garage, my storage locker, my yard, you name it. But because I'm self-employed, I can't do that. So I'm asking for you guys, maybe have a subcommittee and look at this ordinance. And really, it's not caught up with the times. I mean, I can't sit on my couch and do a Zoom call because of my giant screen TV is in that room. This is pretty crazy. Now, I understand where a lot of this comes from. You don't want a guy having a machine shop in his garage, hazardous material, fumes, you name it. I get all of that, but we haven't caught up with where we are with technology. I could see you say any permanent equipment, your big CPU, your printer has to be in your one room, but infrequent, intermittent use of your laptop, portable devices sitting at your living room table or whatever. But the sheer fact of, I don't want to drive. You guys don't want us driving, right? I now have to go drive somewhere to have my guy drop off my check because I can't have him come to my house or to my door. This is really crazy. So I'm here to bring this to your attention. San Jose is way more realistic. I lived in San Jose for years. I had a business in there. My client could show up. The only thing they still have is you can't be in your yard. Hey, I get it, but if you're sitting on your laptop, come on, I'm not making noise. I don't have anything hazardous that should be allowed. So I'm here asking you guys. I know you can't respond today. You can ask me questions, but I know you can't say you're going to do this, but any questions?
So I just have a comment, not a question, but I think these rules are silly.
We're not going to speak on that
Yeah,
today.
You can't speak it.
you can't speak on the topic, but you are allowed to ask me questions.
Well, you answered the question I had as to, why were these laws in the books, and it's because of the machine shop.
2006, Stephen and I had a whole long conversation. He said, I think the only thing that's been updated since 2006 was instead of a piano lesson, it was a music lesson. So now the guy next door can play the trombone every hour for 9 hours a day, but I'm not allowed to sit outside and read my laptop.
Okay, well, I'll just say that I think we clearly understand the issue, and your comments make sense, and I would suggest we just refer it not only to the commission, but also and discuss it with the planners for future consideration.
Great.
That's all I really am here to ask for, and thank you for listening.
Thanks so much. Would anyone else like to speak during this portion of the meeting? Ken, is there anybody online? All right, I am going to close oral requests. We're going to start the public hearing. We have one regular item tonight. I will give you a brief overview of how these go. Staff gives a presentation for the first portion of time. There'll be a presentation on the screens that you can follow along with. Then there's a chance for the commission to ask staff questions. At that point, we will open the public hearing. The applicant has a chance to speak, and then we will move to public comment. You each have up to 2 minutes. You can come up to the dais, the same as folks have been doing, and address the commission. After we've gone through everybody, both here and online, we will then close the public portion. The commission will debate and vote on the item. Before we start on the items, commissioners, do we have any disclosures regarding items on our agenda tonight? Let's start on this side.
I visited the property, actually went into the parking lot and drove around and took a couple pictures.
I have been to the property, but not late.
I've been to the property.
I drove by it tonight.
I'm sure that I've been past the property, but I have no memory of what it looks like. I looked at it on Google Maps.
Makes sense. All right, well, I will bring us to our item. Item number 2, 1500 East Hamilton Avenue, a minor housing development project permit and vesting tentative subdivision map, where the recommended action is to adopt a resolution approving a minor housing development project and a vesting tentative subdivision map. Per usual, our project planner is Mr. Daniel Fama.
Thank you. Good evening. Before you is an application for a minor housing development project permit and a tentative vesting map with use of state density bonus law for property located at 1500 East Hamilton Avenue. This site, approximately 2.8 acres, is currently developed with a 2-story office building constructed circa 1977, back when the property was under the jurisdiction of Santa Clara County before it was annexed into the city of Campbell in 1982. It is located at the southwest corner of Hamilton and Lee Avenues. It was rezoned by the city's 2023 general plan to medium high density mixed use with a corresponding general plan designation that affords a base density of 26 to 33 units per gross acre. The project is proposed in 74 townhome style condominiums across 12 rows, again, with use of state density bonus law waivers. The tentative subdivision map would allow for 13 common lots and 74 condominiums. In terms of design, you have 3-story tall townhome buildings, approximately 39 feet in height, comp roofing, and various cladding materials, including stucco, siding, and stone veneer. And then color schemes that include shades of white, gray, blue, and taupe. In terms of affordable housing, the city's affordable inclusionary housing ordinance requires that 15% of the 74 units be provided at below market rates. And the specific breakdown of that is a minimum of 5 low-income units and 6 moderate-income units. However, to qualify for state density bonus law, the applicant had to convert some of the moderate units to low-income units. So the project proposes 7 low and 4 moderates, and that allows the project to qualify at the 10% low-income level under state density bonus law. That would afford the project a 20% density bonus, which is not being exercised. The project density is basically at the bare minimum. So the city's general plan actually requires at least 74 units for this project. It could not actually be less. The law also allows for unlimited waivers. And as discussed in the applicant's density bonus waiver and concessions request document that's included in your packet, that includes allowance of removal of trees without a tree removal permit, deviation from setback standards, including adjacency standards, and broad exceptions to chapters of the multifamily development design standards document to allow the project to proceed as designed. There's also one concession that is allowed, and that is the concession from the frontage undergrounding requirements. So there are overhead utility lines that currently run along Hamilton Avenue. Ordinarily, those lines and the poles would need to be removed and replaced with underground service. And so the concession is intended to allow those improvements to remain as they are, which is a significant cost saving to the project, which is the purpose of the concession. In terms of review considerations, as the commission is aware, the city's discretion over housing development projects is severely constrained by both the Housing Accountability Act and the Housing Prices Act, which together fairly limit the city's consideration of the application to compliance with objective standards
that may be found in the municipal code or general plan, except where a density bonus waiver or concession is requested. That basically makes the city's multifamily development design standards functionally optional to the extent that developer actually wants to comply. And then in terms of general plan consistency, as I noted, the core requirement for consistency is meeting the minimum density, which the application does, achieving a density of 26.33 units per acre. And then lastly, with regard to compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, environmental review, this application does qualify for a Class 32 infill exemption, which is basically a recognition there are no special circumstances or issues associated with a conforming infill housing project in the infill site. Therefore, based on the affirmative determination, the required findings for a housing development project permit, a tentative map, and CEQA, staff does recommend that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving the minor housing development project permit along with the tentative map to allow a 74-unit housing development project. With that, I will take any questions the commission may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Why don't we start on this end with Commissioner Bookbinder?
So two things just for context. What makes this a minor housing development project as opposed to, I guess, what's ever on the other side of that, or what would be a major housing development project?
So basically, anything that is 5 units or more is a minor project. Minor projects are considered by the planning. Now, there are some subset of that are carved out that are classified as major projects, and those are applications that go to the city council. Those are largely sites that are 5 acres or larger, so, through lots that are 3 acres or larger, and sites that have a frontage that's an exceedance of, I believe, over 700 linear feet. And this is close, but it doesn't hit 700. And so if it doesn't hit those thresholds, then it remains with the Planning Commission as decision-making authority.
Okay. And would it be fair to say that our authority is pretty much constrained in that given that they're using state density bonus law and under the HAA and HCA, we cannot condition, shrink, or deny the project?
Correct. I mean, and in fact, there's actually legislation currently under consideration in the Senate, and it's already passed the Assembly, that would make any density bonus project that qualifies for the CEQA exemptions that were adopted last year to be approved ministerially. So there's a high chance that this project, if considered next year, would actually not even come to the Planning Commission at all. It would simply be reviewed ministerially by staff. So that is where the legislature is going currently.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Commissioner Halney.
So if we have to approve it, why is it here now anyway?
Great question.
Very good question. As a matter of law, it still is the city's municipal code provisions that require this application be considered in a discretionary manner. That is a policy decision of the city. The city council could amend the city's requirements to require these applications to be approved ministerially if they wish. But as I noted, there's a good chance that the state may beat us to the punch and require these projects to be ministerially approved anyways.
I'd like to thank you for teeing that up. We'll call that foreshadowing for presentation later on.
Do you have any other questions?
Thank you, Chair. And we've received a letter from one of the residents regarding traffic and parking. Can you address that?
So this application did not trigger a traffic study. That's largely because you have a large office building that has a lot of vehicle trips associated with it. So with traffic studies, you basically look at what's currently there, what's being proposed. And if there is a net increase of 100 trips during the AM or PM peak hours, and the traffic study is required. That did not happen because you have a big bulk of existing trips. And so that basically nullifies any new trip generation. So traffic study is not required there. In terms of parking, much of the city is not subject to any parking requirement under AB 2097. This is not one of them. It is outside of that boundary. However, as a state density bonus project, there is a hard cap on the number of parking spaces the city can require. And even if the city did try to actively enforce that, a developer could also seek a waiver from those parking standards and basically provide whatever parking they feel is acceptable for the project.
Okay, so thank you for that answer. My question though is an office receives traffic during the peak, whereas a residential, sends cars out during AM, peak traffic. How is that reconciled?
Maybe Matthew wants to speak to the traffic study requirements. This is Matthew G, our traffic engineer.
It's on. It's on.
The number of trips is, it's calculated based on ITE trip generation rates, which is a published industry standard. The number of trips in or out.
You can't hear. Yeah, we would love to hear this. Because this affects our neighborhood.
Sure.
Maybe turn it around.
Yep.
Just speak up, Matthew.
Okay. We use the ITE trip generation manual. It's a published industry standard. It's based on surveys of existing alike land uses. The total number of trips is calculated for the proposed housing project as well as the existing office buildings. So it's the total, and the difference between the two is what's used to compare with our general plan and when traffic studies are required. And based on the net amount, it falls below the threshold that is set by the general plan.
So the AM, PM doesn't come into it, it's just the total.
The total, yes, if a study were done, then you would get into those details of how much is inbound and outbound. And each different land use has a different directionality of traffic, and that gets accounted for. But in terms of setting when a study is required, it's the net of both land uses.
So, so the developer is free to do a traffic study if they like, they're just not being required to do so.
That's true.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Commissioner Holman?
Yeah, so I understand why you would use estimates in theory for the proposed future building because it's the future. But why would you not use the actual traffic result for the existing structure when the entire traffic requirement is predicated on a delta?
You could do either. And even if you didn't take credit for the existing office building trips, the ITE trip generation rates would forecast the housing trips would be below 50 trips in a peak hour. So that's below our threshold.
So if I understand what you just said, if the parcel were empty and you put this development on it, it still wouldn't trigger because the delta from 0 to where it's at is insufficient to trigger the traffic?
It's still below.
Can I ask a follow-up question? So how big of a apartment complex would there had to have been to have triggered it? Like this was 74 units, like just ballpark?
Approximately, I can't do the math in my head right now, but probably around 90 units.
Commissioner Zisser.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
is that from nothing or from the current use?
Without deducting,
So from an empty lot to 90 units.
right? And then if we counted the existing traffic, we would have to give credit.
Oh, so it would be a higher number.
Yeah.
True.
Okay, so it's not like this was particularly close then, even to, okay. Commissioner Zisser?
I don't have any questions on the traffic.
That's fine.
Okay, but I do have other questions, right? So first of all, I just, as I've done before, I just like to, state that, I'm have problems with the fact that this is considered a minor project. And that, to me, the problem with it being a minor project is the is the developer has the option not to provide have us see the preliminary application and review it early. So that's why we get it at this point and not having ever seen it before. And that's because it's a minor project, if I'm correct.
There is not.
That's what we've been told in the past.
I don't believe that's correct. The preliminary application process is voluntary. I think it may speak to encouraging major projects to come before voluntarily proceed with the preliminary application, but it's not a requirement. I think
Even for major?
I don't think it's for major. Let me double check. The challenge there is that under the Housing Crisis Act, we're limited to 5 public hearings, so a mandatory pre-application would burn one of those hearings.
Well, we're going to have one. I don't know what other hearings we're going to have.
Neighborhood meeting.
There's no-
It is not a required preliminary application type.
I just want to state my fact that we've seen fairly large projects and it comes here at the end of the project and we don't get a chance to, although there's no discretionary, that we don't get a chance to provide the developer with input and suggestions. So this is just another example of the Virginia Avenue one was a similar example. And we've seen others where I think a 74 unit is a big enough project that we should have that input. So I'm just putting that down as my continued concern. The question I have is, this was zoned mixed use. And it's not mixed use. So why are we even here?
It does not have to be mixed use. It could have been a 100% commercial project, or it could be a mixed use project, or a 100% residential project. The city's mixed use designation is not mandatory. And even if it was, they could also simply seek a waiver from that requirement anyway.
Okay, so why do we stipulate mixed use in the housing element and in the new zoning that we did a couple of years ago? Well, why do we stipulate that if we're not going to hold to that?
Well, it provides the opportunity for a developer if they were to do in a different type of form. I mean, obviously with a town-owned project, you can't really do ground floor commercial, but if the economy were different and it supported construction of more vertical housing with ground floor commercial, then perhaps, but obviously the economy is exceedingly challenging for that type of construction at the moment.
So there is an option not to do the mixed use, that's what you're saying.
Correct. It's
Okay.
not a mandatory obligation.
Okay, so you know, the other question I had is kind of answered by the fact that it's mixed use, but I'll ask it anyway. It's like, you know, I was, you know, earlier in my tenure, I was here when we did the housing element and we did the new zoning and we attached new higher density to this. I think this is on the housing element, if I'm not mistaken. And so we attached higher densities. And so on this one, we put it at the 26 to 33 or whatever it is. And we zoned it mixed use. So my impression, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that when we were doing that, we envisioned probably apartment building or condominium building with mixed use on the retail floor because it's at the corner of Hamilton and Lee, and that would make some sense. So I was going to have the question about why, you know, because you know, the question of why this is what it is, when I was guessing that we weren't really envisioning. Let's see. So it looks to me like they're going to knock all the trees down.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was no interest in trying to save those large mature trees on Lee.
Well, I mean, as you can see with the site layout, I mean, it's so
Really tight.
tight, there's really not any feasible way to save trees. I mean, that's the challenge with town-owned projects at this density is that they do take a lot of real estate. as opposed to a stacked flat site that could consolidate the development in a smaller footprint.
Okay. And the question that, you know, they're facing, front facing on Hamilton, but it's side facing on Lee. And we tend to like to have front facing on streets, yet we're not doing that here. Can you explain to me whether or not that was a discussion?
Well, it wasn't a discussion because, again, unfortunately, the reality of contemporary California planning, we're going to still call it that, is that the developer runs the show and they will propose what they feel is financially feasible to construct.
Okay. There was one other question about, about parking. So you're saying we're outside the half-mile radius.
Correct.
Okay. And we do have parking standards outside the half-mile radius, do we not?
We do.
And are those more than 2 per unit?
I'd have to double check.
Okay, so, but they could, because they're only doing 2, there's no visitor parking in this.
There's a small number of
There are.
surface spaces.
15? Okay, I didn't catch that. All right. Yeah. That's all I have.
Thank you. One question, there was in the letter, there was a comment about like the size of the alleyways as it related to traffic and fire, assuming those are all standardized and
They are.
Like, are
Well, I mean, the application did have to go through a alternate means and method review through the fire department. So the applicant team spent a fair amount of time with the fire department who ultimately did clear the design.
do you have a follow-up?
Just as I understand it, there's a tension between town-owned developers wanting to be able to build taller and closer together and the fire department wanting to be able to fit their trucks in and get to the roof.
Yes, so you often have height issue with the height of the buildings and the roof lines, ensuring that the ladder trucks can get up to the roof. And if the design isn't to their satisfaction, then they would otherwise require aerial access, which requires wider roadways. So there's often kind of a push and pull between developers and the fire department to find kind of a medium. Sometimes the fire department basically agrees that in exchange for increased fire protection, which is to say a greater number of fire sprinkler heads throughout the buildings, to allow some deviations from strict application of the code standards, which is basically their prerogative. I mean, they have a very rigorous process that goes through multiple layers of leadership before those types of decisions are made.
Great. No more questions? Then I will open up the public hearing for this item. This commission follows the Campbell City Council's guidance on time allotment. Applicants can speak for up to 5 minutes and members of the public can speak for up to 2 on each item. Would the applicant like to speak? You're not required to, but are welcome.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Fantastic. If you could please identify yourself.
Yes, my name is Jim Sullivan. I'm a resident of Campbell, 1263 Chamberlain Court, representing the property owner tonight. And I have a quick presentation that I'd like to go over. I'm going to go through it quickly so I can answer some of the questions I heard earlier. So Ross Green Valley 2 is the property owner, East Hamilton Avenue. This is a kind of a mock-up of the product type. Next slide, please. A little bit about myself. I've done multiple Campbell projects. We'll have another one hopefully coming before you in the next 2 months. Next slide, please. I think Daniel already showed this. Next slide, please. 2.75 acres, just for your own edification, just slightly over 41,000 square feet of existing office space. 53% of that is vacant. And obviously built in 1977, it's a little bit dilapidated for, today, based on today's standards. Next slide, please. So we talk about the number of units, contemporary architecture. Basically, this is 1,300 to 1,800 square foot product. All homes will have an attached two-car garage. A certain portion of those are tandem, but most are side by side. As Daniel mentioned, 11 units allocated at affordable housing. Next slide, please. This is just a copy of, I think, the overall site plan that I can refer back to if you have any questions, but Daniel's might be better. Next slide, please. Oh, Daniel already showed that. That's the BMR. Project benefits. So obviously providing the affordable units, targeting those affordable units target the employees of and residents of Campbell, addressing Campbell's RHNA numbers, providing an opportunity for homeownership close to employment, the tax revenue that's associated with it. I will say that this site, having been purchased some time ago, is basically a $10 million valuation. We think it'll be closer to $100 million after it's built out. I know that the city doesn't get the big part of that. It goes to kind of the state, the county, the schools, and then the city. And then obviously there's the one-time, creation of jobs in constructing and $2.5 million in taxes and other local government revenues. So really quickly with my time remaining, first of all, I want to thank Daniel for being a great planner on this project for me. And a couple of things that came up. So the tree removal permit that was mentioned that Daniel said, we did do a tree survey and there were 53 trees that we studied. 9 of those trees were considered off-site trees. And so those are not being touched. Of the 44 on-site trees that were looked at, 37 of those are considered protected, but not heritage. The 37 trees that would be protected would require 16 24-inch box trees and 11 36-inch box trees. With our plan, we are actually proposing 7 15-gallon trees, 40 24-inch box trees, and 12 36-inch box trees. Really quickly, if I can just touch now on the traffic, I do want to point out that there is, and I'm not sure if it came from the traffic engineer for the city or it came from the Public Works Department, but there's a condition of approval of us restriping Lee Avenue to basically help with traffic concerns that kind of currently exist. I also want to say that I don't think it's 90. I think it's closer when the question was asked, how many units would require a traffic report? If we're doing 74 units and we're right at about 50 AM and PM peak hour trips, it's basically double that. You need to have to create 100 AM or PM peak hour trips to generate a traffic study. With the existing use on site, so I mean, even if the site was vacant, one of the commissioners had brought up, if the site was vacant, would it still trigger a traffic study? The answer is no. With regard to the higher density, Commissioner Sisser, I know that you had talked about, not just on this project, but going the higher densities, you kind of want to create more units. But what I'm trying to do is make sure that I bring forth units or bring forth projects that will actually are feasible to build. And this project, if and when approved, will be built. Luca, are there any other slides? Oh, a tentative schedule. Application was filed in early 2025. I had a previous planner before Daniel and asked her if there was a neighborhood association group that I could reach out and contact. And I think that the Dry Creek Prune Yard Association contacted them and actually met in somebody's house, and it was very well attended. There were 25 or 30 people. And I kind of laid out, kind of what my plan was. They had brought up their concerns regarding adjacency standards. And I explained to them that I had to create this number of units, right? And my job is to try and create something that's going to be beautiful, that will sell, and hopefully will be attractive, basically attractive to the neighborhood. So anticipated hearing June of 2026. We would think that groundbreaking could begin in spring of 2027, maybe in March or April. And the planned opening for the units would be in early 2028. Next slide. Are there any questions for me?
Maybe we will move to the question portion. Thank you. Questions?
I have a question.
Commissioner Comgar.
So, I remember when you were presenting for the Virginia Avenue project, it seemed like it was gonna go to construction too, and I think the next thing I heard, it got sold. Is that a possibility here as well?
Yeah, so great question. The property owner at the time was a company called Valley Oaks Partners. And so they had bought that property along with several other properties from San Jose Water Company. It was an old water company site, and they're not builders. So their goal was to sell it, and it's, as you know now, it's KB Homes that's building that development. In my other project on Llewellyn, Pulte Homes hired me directly. They were under contract to acquire it. And so they're building out that project right now. In this particular case, the gentleman that owns it is a commercial developer, right? That's what he does. And he owns, several buildings kind of around the South Bay, but he's not a residential builder. So the plan here will be, if and when it's approved, will be sold to a KB or a Toll or a Pulte or, somebody of that nature.
Commissioner Alney.
Yeah. When this is all said and done, one issue that I have with it is how people leave the property. Because the two places that they have egress to forces them to make right turns effectively during commute hours. Because the backup at the light goes past the egress point in both directions. I live in a house I was raised in, and I know that intersection very well. So that's going to force everybody to turn right on Lee and then turn right on a neighborhood street to get out over to Bascom to make their way to shops or Highway 17. And I would have liked to have seen a two-way left turn lane or a way for someone to make a U-turn on Lee so that they can get back onto Hamilton, which is the main artery to get to 17. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, obviously, if you go out on Hamilton, particularly if it's crowded, it would be very difficult to make, to get all the way over to the left to make a U-turn. I mean, I've done it, but I'm not during AM or PM peak hours, right? And, likewise, when I've gone out, and I forgot if there's the ability to make a left turn on Lee right now or not.
It's a dedicated right turn lane coming out on the egress that's on Hamilton. If you come out the other egress, it's theoretically possible to pull a left, but you really can't.
With the traffic times that you're saying. Yeah, I understand that. And I mean, we've pulled the street that exits onto Lee as far away from the intersection as possible.
A noble effort, but not going to work.
Yeah, and just, I'm sorry to point out to, I forgot, I think it was Commissioner Sisser that asked about the parking. You can see kind of in the upper right hand of the site plan map where we have parking right along there. And then there's also actually parallel parking along the road that kind of comes off of Hamilton. And so, and it's a total of 15 guest parking spaces. So we're right at about 2.2 parking spaces per unit. And somebody had asked a question, I believe, about the parking requirements. 2.2 is the minimum that I would feel comfortable in doing, and a developer or builder would feel comfortable in doing. But the state actually allows you to go down to, I think, 1.5 parking spaces per 2 and 3 bedroom units. So we're well over, kind of what the state minimum is.
So you mentioned some of the units have tandem parking. How many of those tandem parking compared to the guest parking? You said you have 15 parking spaces. How many
Yeah, I have, by the way, that my civil engineer is in the audience today, as well as David Burton, who's with David Burton with KTGY is my architect. And I think that he's on the line. Do you have a David Burton by any chance?
I counted 8 or 10. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's about, around 20%.
Because the reason for my concern is those tandem units, the unit, the parking space in the back is almost never gets used.
I know what you're saying, Commissioner Kamkar, I do. I will tell you that I think 10 or 12 years ago, when I first started doing this in Hayward's downtown, I heard the same thing, but in order to kind of get the density and livability, it's something that's done and it's fairly common now, and usually at a greater percentage than what I'm doing on this particular site. So, for instance, like Pulte Homes in Milpitas and in Santa Clara, half of their 147 units are tandem parked.
David, you're able to speak if you would like.
I'm here if there are questions for me.
How many tandem units?
I should have been looking while you guys were talking. As Jim said, it's a small percentage. About 18% of the units are tandem.
The other thing that I want to make clear is this, because everything in here will be a private street, it will be maintained by a homeowners association, and CC&Rs that we will actually share with the city will require people to park in their garage and keep the space for 2 cars available, and basically prevent them under threat of towing and or fines from parking in the guest parking spaces.
We never.
Yeah, I had, some of my questions were answered, but Jim, first on the trees on the south and west side that border the neighborhoods. So you got a lot of trees on the south side, which is good. You don't have so many trees on the west side. And when I went there actually today, there's a lot of homes there that don't have tree lines themselves. So I was wondering if, you only have like 6 or 7 trees there covering that whole area. I was wondering if there's room to add more trees to get a tree line there for the neighbors.
Yeah.
To block the neighbors in the long term.
Yeah, so to answer that question, and again, I could bring my civil engineer up to talk, not yet, Graham, but I believe that the issue that we had, and I would love to plant more, quite frankly. You can see that where we had room to plant, we planted as much as we can. I believe that we have the way that the slope, or that the site slopes, that the water is going there, and it's biotreatment that we're doing. So biotreatment is number one. There's C3 requirements that we're required to do, pursuant to state regulation, and also fire department. We're dealing with the County of Santa Clara Fire Department wants to make sure that there's a complete, ability for them to get around to access both for ladder pads as well as egress windows. But I'm happy to actually, any of the neighbors that back up into there, I would be happy to talk with them, outline, and if I can put either more screening on our property, I will. And if I could put more screening on their property, I will.
Okay, well, I hope.
The site is tight.
I hope they take them. Yeah, I can see that. I hope to take it up. Yeah, I'm not, I've seen a number of your things, and you try hard to make the site interesting and put in, some visitor parking. But and I didn't realize there were 15 spaces. For some reason, I missed that. I don't know if I have. I guess just to follow up to the egress and ingress. I mean, when I look at this, I don't see a choice. Were there other considerations on the, I mean, obviously on the Lee Avenue entrance, this is far south as you can get. Was there considerations for dealing with this in some way better? I mean, I'm not sure I see a solution, but.
Yeah, well, I mean, just in kind of eyeballing it, right? You would think, okay, if you brought that, kind of north-south street that's coming off of Hamilton all the way to the bottom. So then that's right next to the back of those, kind of neighbors. And you're potentially doing, even though the buildings would be farther back, would there be a concern of, hey, we're going to have kind of traffic noise? And I don't know that it would work as well, because you would have super long paseos, without a natural break to kind of go through.
You did it at Llewellyn, but
Yeah.
that was, but that's a whole different thing. Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Commissioner Almy?
Yeah. So, and we kind of moved on. So we dealt with the question about egress, but I also have one for ingress. So ingress from Lee Avenue is not so bad, because if somebody stops traffic to make a left across the double yellow line, the traffic has a way to line up and do its thing. But on Hamilton, it's a much bigger problem, because you're backing up people into the intersection. So I would have preferred to see no ability to turn left from Hamilton onto the property, because not too far up the road, there's a dedicated signal light with a left turn lane light, so people can go up, make a U-turn, and not impact the flow of traffic.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can make a left when you're coming west on Hamilton into the site. I thought that
You
there's.
can now, but you're technically maybe not supposed to, because there are double yellow lines for like 6 feet, but people do it. I see it.
Okay.
And they're going to certainly do it when there's more houses there. So I think it would be wise to prohibit that, because like I said, there's a light right up the road. They can make a U-turn and be fine.
Yeah, and we'll be going, this is, essentially the entitlement phase we still have to do. And there's conditions of approval attached with this
In
project.
fact, you can see where they can make the left right there.
Well, but you're talking about putting something on the street for no.
Making a curb, essentially, instead of double yellow lines.
Yes, I am.
But that's the city's responsibility.
There you go. But the city sometimes talks to developers about
I'm
these
just
things.
saying though.
But what I was going to say, Commissioner, is, we're still going to go through final map and improvement plans. And I think that there's going to be the opportunity for your Public Works Director, Roger, to, discuss that with us.
Okay.
Adam, do you have any?
I do have more questions, if,
For him?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I do want to talk to your civil engineer if this is the right time regarding the C3. Thank you, sir.
Civil engineer is Graham Goodwin, working for Civil Engineers Associates, a Campbell engineering company.
Very nice.
That's right. Good evening.
Hi, Graham. So my name is Matt. I'm also a civil engineer, and I do C3 for, our clients. So I'm familiar with it. The Silva cells, don't they have to have trees in them? So do you have trees in your Silva cells?
Yes. So kind of along the central drive there, there's some kind of, this is probably the parking that's hard to see. There are some parallel stalls along, I think those are the even numbered buildings. Yeah, so where the Silva cells are present, they can't be under a vehicular travelway. They can only be under parking due to structural loading. So we do have those tree wells, landscape pockets adjacent to any Silva cells that are present on the project.
Okay.
And,
So they don't have to be in the center of the Silva cell area. They can be on the side.
Yeah, exactly. The intent is that they provide an area that the tree roots can grow into, and that those tree roots provide the biofiltration aspect that is otherwise achieved by plants on a surface level.
Makes sense.
And just for your reference, the Gilman and Dillon Avenue project that's currently under construction, right, a couple blocks that way, that is a project where we're utilizing the Silva cells. So that those are currently under construction, but yeah, there haven't been any issues installing that. And,
So along the guest parking on the north, I guess, yeah, right there. So there you have one tree on each side as well. And
Yeah.
that's how you.
Yeah, I can't recall. I don't think we have silver in every one of these areas. I can't recall exactly which ones, but everywhere there is a silver the ratio is 1 tree per 50 silver boxes. And that's been, established by the manufacturer through third-party testing.
Got it. Then for the interior of the buildings, do you have flow-through planters and?
Yeah, so you can
What are
see
they
kind of the slightly darker green rectangles between the buildings along the paseos. So those are the more traditional above ground biotreatment planters. So those will have a biotreatment soil mix that includes, kind of a mix that's set by the county that's been established and tested to meet water quality standards. So 100% of the site will be treated via low impact design as a way to improve the water quality. So it's all in compliance with, the state ordinances and how that's interpreted by the county water board.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for saving that question for him. I wasn't going to be able to answer that one.
It seems like all of our questions for now. We'll have a couple minutes for you at the
Thank
end
you.
too.
And while we have the landscaping sheet up, I just wanted to highlight one comment. So the fire department is very increasingly concerned in tight sites like this that they have sufficient ladder access. And as part of that, they're concerned about trees growing and obstructing that access. So this application was actually held up in part towards the end because of the trees along the back at buildings 11 and 12 on the right side. So those trees basically were too big in an earlier iteration of the landscaping plans. And so the fire department demanded that they get smaller so that they don't grow so large that they actually block the ladder pad access to those buildings. So unfortunately, that's an example that it would actually be a significant code compliance issue for the trees to be larger, unfortunately.
Can we, I have a follow-up. To another question about another thing. About the trip.
To the applicant?
Let's see, I guess it would be staff. Is okay?
Sure.
All right, so I guess this would be to Matthew about the traffic and the turns. I just wanted to get, you're the traffic guy. I wanted to get your thoughts on the issue of the egress, ingress, and only turns, and what you see as potentially a problem there, whether or not the city is concerned about that.
It's easier once the thing is built to know how people are going to behave. Looking at the sketch in the staff report, it does look like the driveway on Hamilton Avenue is located along a portion of Hamilton Avenue where it's just a double yellow line. So there isn't a double. So people technically could make a left turn across. It's legal. But I agree that it could be challenging, especially during peak traffic. Eastbound traffic is very heavy in the evening, and it's pretty heavy southbound on Lee Avenue as well.
So is there anything that we would want to consider doing that maybe we would want to have a condition of this? Or is this something you'd have to study? And
I think we would have to study. Lee Avenue is going to be challenging in any case because you've got a combination of existing driveways, the church on the east side of Lee. We've got traffic coming up from Piccadilly, that area. And then on Hamilton Avenue, we have to make sure that there's enough room so that the lanes align across Lee Avenue. So it's kind of just difficult to design on the fly.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Matt.
Going to open it up to members of the public. You have up to 2 minutes. Ken, do we do any speaker cards for this or?
Chair, I do not have speaker card to speak right now.
So one at a time, whoever would like to come up. Yeah, please join. If you could please,
I've never done this before, so I don't know what the lights
you-
mean.
you're
so-
good. It's green. If you could just state your name.
Okay,
if you-
my name's Colleen O'Connell, and I live at 1464 Piccadilly Place, directly behind the Lee and Hamilton Building. I have lived there for over 70 years, so I have seen this whole intersection change. In regards to making a left, I highly would not go for that. The original owners that owned that ranch, the Bensons, his wife was killed making a left-hand turn, and that was over 70 years ago. So I would not make a left. That is a definite accident waiting to happen. Now, I have walked through that building many a time, and right now there is very little parking in there. I've walked through there, I can count 10 or 12 cars. So you can't compare apples to apples by currently what's there and what is going to be there. Now, to get out of Hamilton Avenue, the only thing a car could do, because I came back there at 10 o'clock today, and all the traffic was backed up past the driveway. You could wait to make a right in the right-hand turn and then go on Lee as what you had suggested at one time. Then what's going to happen is they're going to come down our street, Piccadilly, which is a dead-end street, and they're going to try to make a left. That may or may not happen. In the morning, I can tell you, I leave at 7:30 and it's already backed up. There's people coming from Sheffield, which is the next street down, going in the opposite lane, because there is a slight lane for the Lee and Hamilton Building in Piccadilly to get out and make a left. Those people that are going to want to make a left are going to have a very, very tough time because it's already backed up. I can't even back up. Is that me?
Yeah, can you just finish your thought?
Okay.
Yeah.
So traffic is going to be a nightmare. Even now, for me to get out, I'll go right and then I'll make a left turn on Cromwell, which is 2 streets down, and then go down and then come out on Lee Avenue. And that's what people are going to see what they're going to do. They're either going to make a right out of there, of which, let me just add this. About 2 months ago, I was going to go right. Now, this was rare, but 4 cars came out of the driveway, one after the other. I couldn't get out at all. And then the signal turned. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is what this is going to be like when this building goes in, because the only option is for these people to go right and then go down one of the side streets. They're not going to be able to make a left. That's a fact. It's just the way it's going to go.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, as far as that goes. Now, the concern is also.
Sorry, we have 2 minutes per speaker.
Oh, okay. But you need to seriously think about the traffic because it will be an accident waiting to happen.
Thank you.
And we also need parking permits on our street because everybody's going to come and park on our street. And the tandem garage thing does not work. So people are going to park on the side streets with their other cars. And for 15 guests,
Man, we do have others.
I know, just one last thing. When they have parties and stuff, where are they going to park? They're going to be parked on all the side streets. This is not the project for that section.
Next speaker.
Cheryl Sinclair, I live on Phantom. I'm just going to ramble a few lists since it's only 2 minutes. Congratulations on the math, because when I did the math, I think you were supposed to be at 73 units, not 74. But I think the density of it is a problem because that section, like they said, the traffic is very high. You have 3 schools, the church and the 2 schools, plus you have eBay. So to add 74 units, which is a minimum of 150 people, how you only get 100 added traffic or whatever that calculation was is beyond me because you have a minimum of 150 people living there going to work. There used to be a thing in the cities where you had to have so much park space per housing. I don't know what happened to that law. I don't know if it's still there, but there are no parks on that side. Now you're adding a minimum 150 people with no place for dogs, no parks. That townhome took all 74 units and there's not one play structure in there. So where did the kids go? Okay. Air conditioning for 74 units. That's got to be super loud for the neighbors really close. Hamilton, after all these years, is finally getting redone. Now you're going to have big people on there, and every time I've seen big construction, they've ruined the roadway. So hopefully you put in something where they're going to repave the roadway and make it good. And that right turn on Hamilton, when you turn right onto Lee, everybody uses that as a passing lane. And now you have some 75 to 150 people coming out of that driveway onto that passing lane, which is wrong. How are you going to fix that? Whew, 2 minutes. I read it.
Do other folks like to speak?
So, and 3 stories. My neighbor took 3 years to get the permit from Campbell to get a foot added to their housing. And you guys are putting 3 stories right next to houses with no permits and nothing.
Hello again. I just have a quick question. The trees that are trying to be removed, it looks like tree number, where did tree number go here? I think it was 233, 234 that are close to the corner of Lee and Hamilton. If you got rid of some of the bioswale, I think some of those trees, 1 or 2 of them may be able to stay, although one's a big camphor. And then the same on the south side. And you were saying, I think, Daniel, you were saying they were taking the big ones out because of the fire access down there, correct?
I was referring to the new trees that were limited in size.
But they're taking out the bigger trees because they need the fire access, is why you're not keeping any on the south side or the east side.
I mean, I think the development team probably speak more about individual trees.
Okay, I just am looking at the tree and the inventory and the site dimensions, and it just seems like there should be at least 2 or 3 of the big ones on the corner that might be able to stay.
Thank you for your comment.
That was Susan Landry for the record.
Oh, yes.
Next speaker, if you could identify yourself. Thank you for coming tonight.
I'm Jane Stroud. I'm at 442 Nottingham Way. So I'm one of the 5 or 6 homes that back up to the parking lot, which we've always loved because it's quiet. But my one concern is, the townhouses seem to be very close to our backyard. And I don't know if there's any thought about making them, if we're still going to have the wall there that's been there forever since they built that building. And hopefully we don't have to move any trees from our house. The other thing I was curious about as far as parking, because our street is right behind that, and people will be parking on our street more than likely. Is there still a plan, or is there a way, do you have a residential permit only on our street? They did that, I know, on Futrall when Tower Records was there. And so you could park on that street. So a residential permit would be great. Other than that, who knows?
Thank you for your comment.
Can I just answer a question on the neighborhood permits?
Sure.
And Daniel can correct me if I get it wrong. There's only one neighborhood permit. I mean, this comes up all the time. There's only one neighborhood that has a permit in Campbell at the moment, but the neighborhood can submit for a neighborhood permit, if I'm not mistaken. That would be done after the completion of the
Yes.
project, right?
Right.
And so neighborhoods are free to contact the city and request to go through the process of getting a neighborhood permit. Whether or not, I think obviously there's going to be some overflow parking here. Whether or not the city would oblige, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But there is a permit process where you could go through.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And I think there's the wall, whatever wall, I don't know if there's going to be a new wall. There's going to be a wall.
The existing wall is going to be retained.
Okay, so the existing wall is.
Can you comment? Her trees won't get impacted at all,
You know how
correct?
tall the wall is gonna be?
It's the existing wall height. I think it's indicated as 6 feet tall.
Pardon?
6 feet tall.
No, that's what it is now.
It's staying, the wall is staying.
So the wall will stay.
And her trees aren't getting changed at all, correct?
Typically, yeah, you do not remove off-site trees.
Okay,
Thanks so much.
thank you.
Other folks who'd like to speak on this item? Please.
Not to reiterate the traffic
Could you just state your
situation.
name too?
My name is Nancy Schrader. I live at 420 Nottingham. And just more on the traffic situation there. It's so bad coming out onto Lee. I mean, Hamilton, I think we've all said that's going to be bad. Coming out onto Lee, you have the school traffic coming out off of Sheffield too. And that morning with, I'm going to say all the crazy moms, which we all are, getting your kids in and out of school at 3, between 8 and 3. And then on Nottingham at 5 o'clock, everybody's cutting down our street so they don't have to go to Lee. So if it's going to be even worse, it's a nightmare.
Thank you. Let me just see if we have any other public comment. Would you like to, yeah, please.
Jim.
Or, sorry, no, we'll do you at the end.
We got somebody.
Sorry.
I have two online.
Join the line as well, great.
Hi, I'm Debbie Huke. I live on Phantom Avenue. How do we request a traffic study? I've heard there's not one done, there doesn't need to be one done, but you've heard several comments made in regards to traffic. And even the current traffic today, and you're going to add 74 more units, which is over 100 people. So I'd like to request that we can find out how to do a traffic study. Thank you.
Can you please repeat your name one more time?
I'm sorry,
Your name?
Debbie.
And staff, we cannot, there is no way to request it or
Correct.
require.
I mean, sometimes, neighborhood associations fund their own traffic studies, but there's also a real limitation of what a traffic study is really going to do anyway. And the roads are not going to be expanded. So even if there are operational impacts, there is very little the city can functionally do. I mean, it really runs contrary to a lot of prevailing policies.
And the commonality of the speakers is that the requirements were not ours. They're mandated from Sacramento pertaining to parking, traffic, density, correct?
Correct. This is largely a state-driven process.
Anyone else in the chamber? I'm going to do the two people on the line and then go back to the applicant at the end. Ken, you want to let the two folks on the line on?
Yeah, Dan Monsieur.
Yes, I live off of Peter, sort of near Campbell Avenue. We've been there 23 years, and I guess I see this as this is the least dense project we can possibly get. If we say no to it, we're going to get something denser. And I do like the idea. I raised my kids here, and I do like the fact that with some attainable housing, maybe there's a shot that they can be able to stay here. And so anyway, so I'm in favor of it.
Thank you. We have one other person on the line.
Hannah Wall.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Hi, yeah, we actually live next door to Jane. Jane just spoke 2 people ago where she has wonderful trees that protect her property. We're actually the opposite. We have no trees that don't protect our property, and we're concerned of townhouses kind of looking in on us. I'm actually in favor of it as well. I'm not opposed to the townhouses, but I'm just opposed to the privacy issue. Is there anything that can help us?
Thank you for commenting. I'm going to call up Jim Sullivan, who I think may have a comment on your comment there.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time.
Jim Sullivan, back again. So just a couple of things that I'm going to go through that I think some of the speakers had touched upon. And then I'm going to say something that I think that the neighbors are going to like, but I might get fired by my employer. First of all, the daily trips, right? The 150 people or 150 garage spaces. Those are the total number of trips throughout the day. So it's like, you know, a single family detached unit is looked at having 10 daily trips, both going out and coming back. What the city and the state is typically most concerned about is not the ones during the afternoon or late into the evening. It's the AM peak hour and the PM peak hour trips. So that's, you know, when we say it's less than 100, it's less than 100 during the AM peak hour and the PM peak hour, not throughout the whole day. On the park space, I would love to have a park on this site. And if I had the ability to put one, I would do so. We are paying the park in lieu mitigation fee, which is $1.6 million that will come to the city. The wall stays, I think that you guys had already talked about that, and the street trees. But to Mr. Wall's comment, so the balconies, I think when we originally were looking at the architecture for this, typically we have second floor and third story balconies. So we removed the third story balconies. And then actually on the second story balconies, we have, I don't know, Daniel, if you recall, it's a certain thing, maybe my architect can talk about it, but it basically prevents people from, you know, kind of looking out. So it's the screen that we can do. But to my biggest point, what I want to say is, you know, I've been a developer for 35 years. As I mentioned, I'm a resident of Campbell, but not just because this is in my home city, because I think it's the right thing to do. And although I'm not required, I'm willing to hire Hexagon Transportation Company. They're the preeminent traffic consultant. And I will have them do a traffic analysis and working with Mr. Jew on that to maximize the safety factor for cars coming in and leaving, and we will work with the city to that regard. So I make that commitment on behalf of the developer.
That's great.
Can we comment?
Is there any other questions from the?
You can ask a question.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. And can you, I guess, discuss the fact that if we're gonna keep putting the density in, it means you're gonna have to change the way the streets work. You may not be able to build more streets or wider streets, but it is gonna mean changes. And I'm thinking that could you please have them do their propeller head thoughts on putting in a dedicated two-way left turn lane at the expense of having only one lane on Lee. And that might screw everyone going by, but it might just save a life for people that are going to be living there.
Yeah, and I don't know this for a fact. Maybe Matthew can weigh in on if both Lee and Hamilton, those sections are owned by the city. If they're under city of Campbell jurisdiction, or
I think it's San Jose. I'm afraid that Lee.
Yeah,
Hamilton, you can't do anything.
Half of Hamilton is San Jose.
Yeah, I
Right
think
down the
so.
middle of the street.
But anything within the city's jurisdiction, you know, I mean, that can improve safety. We're willing to look into.
The man of the hour.
North of Montemar Way, Lee Avenue is in Campbell.
Oh, that's what we need.
East of Lee Avenue, the northern half of, actually,
no,
east and west of Lee Avenue, the northern half of Hamilton is in San Jose.
Yeah, but even if it were Campbell, I don't think you can do much with Hamilton. It's too big of an artery. But on Lee, the two-way left turn lane, the reason one is so important is to me is it provides egress and ingress to the property. I mean, you don't need it on both sides of the property. You just need one that's safe for everybody, and they'll learn to use it because traffic will make them use it. And if Lee is Campbell, then now you can work and see if a two-way left turn lane is a way, because you've got that extra lane that's the merge lane that everyone uses as a passing lane anyway. And you've got a left turn lane anyway. So extending a left turn lane into a two-way left turn lane, it just feels like maybe there's something there that's just at the cost of paint.
Yeah. Yeah, so and I think I mentioned earlier that one of our latter conditions of approval that came to us, as the applicant, was to restripe Lee in a certain configuration. But what I would like to do is have, traffic consultants. I mean, Matthew's great, but it's always good idea to have, kind of two heads, thinking about
Thank you for
something,
that.
come up with something that's good.
Can we ask you to write that up and submit that? on paper?
I'll work with, it's on public record. But if Daniel wants me to give him something tomorrow or draft something up tonight, I agree to do this. I'm going to do it.
I'm just saying, if you're committing to it, it's like nice to have it in writing.
If my employer won't pay for it, I'll pay for it. How about that? You have my word.
Appreciate it.
And I got to tell you, you just changed my vote with that, for what it's worth.
Adam.
I did have a question for the applicant. It's a different topic. I noticed that you said that you originally applied in early 2025, and so it's been a year and change to get to your first hearing. What, in your opinion, was the main source of how long that took? Was it negotiating with the fire?
Yeah, that was the length. Daniel is terrific, probably the best planner. Well, Stephen's good too, but Daniel's my favorite. And he's just very efficient. Did I get myself in trouble by saying that? He's very efficient. He's very good at what he does. There's probably the biggest, and we're trying to come up with a product that we think is going to be very, a good word. I think we went through a total of 4 submissions on this project, right? And the city responded, by the way, after the submission, because it was an SB 330, within 30 days, every single time. But we wasted, I'm not going to say wasted, there was about 4 months hold up with Santa Clara County Fire Department. And it's not because the individual there is bad or, doesn't like us. I think he's just extremely overworked. And so it's, you send something to him that's, maybe a 30-minute conversation, and he's like, we can talk in 3 weeks.
Thank you for writing that by me. That's all I have.
And if I could just quickly comment on the fire thing. Strictly speaking, so what's happening is that these projects aren't code compliant. They just don't meet the strict letter of the fire code. So the fire department is actively working with the development community to find ways to make these projects work. So it is an elongated process, because the alternative would just be say no, and then we don't have any project at all. That's kind of what's happening there too.
Yeah, if I can just do a quick add-on, because Daniel brought up a good point. So essentially, when you're building 3-story product, right, which is very popular for today's new home buyer and creates the density that cities are looking for. Essentially, you have to have, if you can have your roof line at 30 feet or below, you're golden. You're good to go. The problem is it would be a very plain looking building. So you can tell by our architecture, we kind of have some pop-ups that kind of go up a little bit. We're trying to create something that we think is more beautiful, that meets a lot of the MFDDS requirements. But unfortunately, every single time you go over 30 feet, the fire department says, we can't access the roof from that point right there. But you can, on all of these other points. And so it's like, how much of the building, that roof line, do you have to have? And we try to get at least 50% of the building at 30 feet below. And so was kind of the holdup in the work together with Santa Clara County Fire to come up. It was truly a means to create a more beautiful product.
Okay, and just so I understand about the fire codes that you're speaking about, are the county codes, correct?
It's a state fire code that's adopted locally.
Okay, so when the state mandates all these requirements for housing and then says you can't do traffic, you can't do parking, and you can't, do density, why would they omit a critical element necessary for every approval that is this non-compliant rep?
Well, there are discussions in California and other states of looking how to reform building and fire codes, because they are presenting a very practical challenge to housing developments. That's true. So some states are making more progress than we are.
Well, but it would seem to me that if you were making this legislative act to increase housing to trade the latter requirement for more impervious structures. You know, you would require materials, you would require things that would make it less necessary to get on the roof to begin with. That would seem to me part and parcel of this swath of legislation that makes it ministerial for our approvals on these things.
I'll try to capture that question.
Do you know about why they would omit this piece of the legislative burrito when there's a half a dozen laws that pertain to all this? And this is on every single project.
So I'll jump in. I mean, obviously Campbell planning staff can't answer that question. That's a question for the state. So, I mean, you have multiple interests. If you look at the legislative process, you have multiple interests at multiple time trying to achieve things. So obviously there's a big push towards housing. How those reconcile with other codes and if they get in the way with it isn't always reconciled. So I don't think Campbell planning staff can help you on that, but that would have to be something that happens at the state level.
And I would add, I mean, there have been hearings at the state level on reforming fire code and building code, but there is a lot of resistance from firefighters really because they see any challenges or limitations to the fire code as creating a safety hazard.
I agree. And the comments aren't not to make it your problem. It's so that the people who came here tonight to speak understand how much of this is coming out of Sacramento and putting us all in this impossible circumstance. And I want them to understand where the frustration should lay so they don't, you know, bring it to you guys, bring it to us, bring it to the city council where nothing can be done about it.
If I can add just one more thing, Mr. Chair, and it kind of pertains to traffic. So I know a number of the commissioners were here back in 2023 when the housing element was adopted. And there was an environmental impact report that was done concurrently with that. And there were 3 or 4 items. They look at everything, you know, acoustics, biology, greenhouse gas emissions, traffic being one of them. And traffic was listed as an item potentially with significant impact that could not be mitigated. It requires an EIR to be done if you have that finding. And it's not for this site. I mean, I think that the city, you know, GP'd or GPA'd, you know, 70 properties, right? And there's some areas that traffic in the old standard of level of service are currently like at a D or an E, and they're only going to get worse, right? But the council, in order to get the housing element approved to create the number of units that they needed to create by the state, had to do a vote of overriding consideration. So they basically said, you know, even if it can't be mitigated, we still need the housing. Basically, the housing is of higher priority. And I'm not saying that that's right. And that's why I'm willing, particularly from a safety standpoint, to hire Hexagon and work with the city to see what, if anything, else can be done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks so much. With that, I will close the public hearing and we're going to discuss this as a commission. Why don't we start with Commissioner Zisser?
Well, first of all, I appreciate everybody the residents coming tonight and Ms. O'Connell, you wrote a very complete concern about this project and how it impacts the neighborhood. You get a couple of things wrong, but that's minor things about it's not a light rail project in terms of being close to the light rail. It's where there's nothing in this project that relates to the high density near light rail that applies. So, but that's a minor thing. But I was very impressed with your write-up. I think we answered some of your questions. The problem we have here is that the state has all these laws that they've passed in the last 4 or 5 years that override most of what the city can do to either reject or change the project as long as the developer meets the requirements of the law. So we actually can ask very little of these kind of projects. And as Daniel said, it's like this in the future, a project like this could actually never reach the planning commission. It would be ministerially approved by the planning department. We understand your concerns. We've actually heard it many times before. Traffic, parking, egress, ingress, too tall. These are all things that we've seen before. And this is the nature of what's happening. I would argue with Jim as to whether or not the 3-story townhomes are popular with people. They're popular with people because those are the things that are available to buy. And the developers have decided that these are what we can put up, get the most out of in terms of square footage. I'm personally not a big on the 3-story townhomes, and I've said that before. It's like, why would somebody like me want to walk up 2 stairways? But that's the fact, is that they're allowed to build 3-story townhomes next to 1 or 2-story single-family neighborhoods. That's been going on now. We have many projects in progress that around the city, and they're going on all over the state. I appreciate Jim's willingness to take a look at the traffic problem. I think that's a great thing. He's a very cooperative developer here in the city. He's done a number of projects. I'm less impressed with the look of this one because it's just everything in line, but what are you going to do? We had to get 74 in there because that was the stipulation. I'm going to vote in favor of the project. It meets the requirements. We don't really have an option to reject it. If we were to reject it, and they would appeal it, if either the council could object to it or approve it. But the fact is that it leaves us open to be sued by either the developer or the state, for that matter, because we're not allowing something that has to be allowed per the state laws. So I understand all the concerns. I actually drive down Hamilton all the time, and I know that area very well. And I have concerns about the traffic issues, but the fact is that this is going to go in, and then we'll see what the problem is and how serious it is. We've seen the tandems before. I don't like tandem parking, but that's the way it is. It's like it's allowed, and people argue, well, people aren't going to use the entire garage. Well, we can't speculate on and tell people whether they should use their entire garage or not. For the two, the HOA could stipulate that. There is going to be an HOA, and they're going to have rules about where you can park, where you can't park. That's probably one of the good things about the HOA. There's other things that aren't so good, but. So I would suspect that there's going to be leak over into the neighborhoods. Again, not much we can do about that. We'll see what happens. And again, I encourage people to, once this is done, if you feel that there's a problem in your neighborhood, that you contact the city and see about getting a permit for your neighborhood. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Kamkar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I share many of the points that my colleague said. First of all, I think it's very good design given what they have. I think the civil engineer and the architect did a great job with all the limitations that they have on the field, the number of units that they had to produce, and the way they've laid it. I know, it looks like a row housing, but at least there's structure to it, and there is it would be easy to navigate, especially during times of emergency. If you have to get out, there is an easy way to get out. The only items I don't like is the tandem parking, but again, I understand this is the product that it has to be sellable after it's built, otherwise the developer would not build it. And we're just in an era where this is where the tire meets the road. And, you have to make it distance, you have to make it taller. I actually like the 3 stories, I think it would allow you, hopefully you're using solar panels, on your roofs, to help with the energy. When you are taller, that means you have a little bit more green space than you would have had you not been taller, and so you would have a bigger footprint. So those are all positive to me, and I would be supportive, especially when I heard a commitment from Mr. Sullivan that he will sanction a traffic study. That's the Mr. Sullivan that I know, and so kudos. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Alney.
For the people in the audience in the comments, I'd just like you to know that I live in a house I was raised in on Ridgely. And I came here to the Planning Commission because I didn't like what I was seeing in my city. And I didn't want it to become overbuilt like too many East Coast cities with all the density and all the problems that you can't solve. But I'm also here to tell you that we have a choice between writing a check after we get sued and saying yes, or suffering a reduction in the quality of life because we said yes. And the only solace, and the reason I'm going to vote yes for this, is because Jim is a very good developer, and you would be horrified at what could go there. And that's the best I can tell you.
Commissioner Bookbinder.
Thank you. Just gonna note that I live in a 3-story townhome. I'm raising my daughter in a 3-story townhome. We live next to a bunch of other families who live in 3-story townhomes. Not everybody can afford a detached single-family home here. We're very lucky to have that, and so I don't think this is. I think I don't have the same visceral reaction to it that people who do not live in 3-story townhomes have. I will also, if it helps, note that my HOA spends the vast majority of its effort enforcing its draconian parking rules on the people who live in my complex. There's not really much to say about this, given that our authority is very constrained here. Thank you to everybody who came in to let us know how they feel about it. But the project is as it is. I think we're lucky that Mr. Sullivan is willing to be extra accommodating to people. I think he's very much valuing the goodwill of the community. I hope the community returns that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Like similar comments to the rest of the commissioners. Thank you for speaking here tonight. Appreciate everybody who came to participate in the process. But like we've been saying, this is a pretty limited set of things we could object to, and parking and traffic are not some of these things. Like Commissioner Comcar said, I found our city very responsive when problems develop, whether it's trash, whether it is traffic sort of limitations. So please just get in touch with the city as these things develop for the projects. And then I would echo the comments about the developer. We don't say this about most developers, but Jim Sullivan does show up and generally seem to care. So the one commenter who said he was curious about maybe having a tree in his backyard, I think I heard you offer that's something you may do. So he put his email address up, but if you're still on the line, I think you might get a free tree out of this. So get in touch. But supportive of this project, again, sort of, maybe less draconian than yours. If we don't approve housing, we lose all control. And this easily could be at some point a 10-story building where the traffic impacts would just be monstrous. We have a big target. I think this meaningfully moves us towards it. It's a nice project, doesn't feel sort of crazy out of character with the area. So I am supportive of it. With that, I will ask for a motion on this item. Anticipating it's Commissioner Zisser, the motion man.
Look for it in advance.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving a minor housing development project permit and tentative vesting subdivision map to allow the construction of a 74-unit housing development project, specifically PLN 2025-55.
Could I get a second?
Second. Sorry.
Oh, please.
Don't want to get in the way of this.
No,
but
no.
Knowing, the applicant developer has put on the table the traffic request.
Yeah.
Clearing the record, you might want to just put in your motion acknowledging.
Yeah.
That, so it's clear, that's a commitment that he's put forward.
You want to amend the motion to the?
Thanks.
Acknowledging that the developer has offered to provide a traffic study.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Rob. Now can we get a roll call vote?
Commissioner Scissor,
Aye.
Commissioner Camcar,
Aye.
Commissioner Alney,
Aye.
Commissioner Buckbinder,
Aye.
Chair Fields.
Aye. The motion passes with a 5-0 vote. Planning Commission action is final unless appealed in writing to the city clerk within 10 calendar days. The next up is subcommittee reports, but why don't we do a 3-minute break prior to that? Sound good? Or take a 3-minute break.
Nice squares.
That's not why I did it, but.
I know. Now I gotta speak.
All right, we're ready. We're back. Moving on to the third item, staff and committee reports, planning commission subcommittee reports. Up first, the housing permit streamlining ad hoc subcommittee with Commissioners Bookbinder and Comcar.
Thank you, everyone. So I would like to thank everybody for having read the write-up that I sent there. I will note that we had a meeting with staff, specifically with planner Stephen Rose and Rob, and we have again refined our plan. So what I would like to do is run the plan by everybody and go over each of the 4 proposed policies, have a brief discussion about what we'd like, take sort of a straw poll, get the sense of the committee, so we'll have something actually written up at the next meeting that we can vote on. And then hopefully no one will be surprised and horrified by. So for context here, the problem we're trying to solve is obviously we are underbuilding housing. We'd like to build more. Our constraints are that the city is very short on revenue, especially given the Measure K being an escrow issue. And we're very short on staff time. I think we're supposed to have 5.5 FTE. We have 2 FTE. So I'd like to thank staff for meeting with us. Their time is very, very short. So given this, we are trying to propose things that will not cost any money and will take as minimal staff time as possible, preferably like changing one number in the city code to a different number in the city code. That's it. So 4 proposals we have. I'm going to go over these and then we'll talk about each one of them. First, make minor housing project permits administrative and major permits terminate at the Planning Commission. Now, these would still be appealable, but this would make minor housing project permits ministerial, which would cut about 2 months off the approval time, which is really significant for people. I think, to quote staff in this package, the commission's review is limited by state law, including HAA and related housing laws, which generally restrict the city's ability to deny or reduce the density of a qualifying housing development project. Basically, if you've been wondering why we kind of do this go round when there's nothing we can actually change about it, it's because the city does this. The city could decide not to do that, especially given that none of these things have ever been appealed. Staff is, as I understand it, on board with moving everything down one level. So things that go here will now be administrative. Things that go to the city council will now terminate here. They can still be appealed up. We are not losing any discretion because we didn't really have discretion in the first place. Second, adjust our inclusionary housing rates to match San Jose's. Now, San Jose had a very similar problem to what we have. They had a lot of, they could build townhomes, but stacked flat proposals had been applied for, but due to changing economic circumstances, were stuck. They asked, how can we unstick these? They reduced fees and they reduced inclusionary zoning rates. And they have, as far as I can tell, unstuck things. I am currently in the process of trying to get in touch with somebody from the planning department in San Jose to see how this worked, but empirically, they've had a lot of success with this. So there's 2 ways we can go with this. I would recommend we go with a more flexible way. So what their ordinance says for rental units, you can do 10%, half at 80% AMI, half at 60%. You can do 7% of them at 50% AMI or 5% at 30% AMI, which is like extremely low income. All those, like you can do your density bonus, you can do your inclusionary zoning in any of those ways. I believe those all actually do get you state density bonus, which is what most developers really care about. For sale, it's only 10% at 120% AMI. And all of these only apply to 20 or greater unit projects. I have a lot of sources on places that have been pulling back their inclusionary zoning ordinances. I will note that the reason why our rate is 15%, this was, as far as I can tell, implemented in 2006 and is 15% because that is the highest number you can do before the state makes you actually justify it with a nexus study. That is also what San Jose had, and they found it to be restrictive. So, third, state law requires that we exempt ADUs under 750 square feet from park fees. in the interest of fairness, we have a local density micro unit program. This would also exempt those units which are similarly small from park fees. And lastly, I'm aware that the council recently vigorously rejected SHRA projects. Those are the starter homes, the SB 1123 projects. But given that SB 79 will be in effect the next time we meet,
So July 1st.
yeah, July 1st, allowing streamlining for SHRA projects, that is concurrent demolition and construction permitting in the SB 79 areas only, wouldn't be, you can have single family homes, or we're trying to put townhomes there. It's, you can have stacked flats there, or you can have townhomes there.
Just 1 second. I just want to make sure everybody knows what we're talking about when we say SB 79.
I know about this.
79. Okay, so you could build 5 to 7 stories by right. You don't need to go change zoning, you know.
Yeah, and you don't need to, get a demolition permit, or you can just buy the parcel and do that. This would just remove the extra step to build townhomes in the regions where you can already by right build large stacked flat projects. So those are the 4 items. I would very much like the sense of the commission on, start with the first one, moving the discretion down 1 level so that minor housing project permits are administrative and major housing permit projects are go to the planning commission instead.
Can I make a macro thing first?
Sure.
I think when we do this, what I need to see is the data, which is like in the last 5 years, how many of each of those were there?
Absolutely. How long have we had this project definitions? It hasn't been 5 years, right? Since about 2003.
It's been since adoption of the housing element, which would be spring
Right,
of
2023.
23, so
Sure.
approximately 3 years.
Okay, 3 years. But so like just to say them for each of these of like the data, because I don't know that I could actually tell you at this moment whether I support any of these absent some data. So like the first one would be, what are we really talking about? And then like what we did for the permit streamlining is we married that with like the public comment to say, because remember when we did that, we're like, we streamlined just the uses, this is like before your time, based on no negative public comment. So if you, what I want to know for this one is, are we removing a forum at which people did still, even if we couldn't approve it, they felt heard, they learned some stuff, they got a developer offer, like, so that, like that one, it'd be useful to know. For the second one, inclusionary zoning, city comps, like San Jose.
Can we do like can we go through these?
We go one at a time. I basically have the same macro
Sure,
comment
sure.
on all of them of like, absent that, I can't in good conscience really say
Absolutely,
yes to
yeah.
any of them or send any of them on. But we can go one at a time if you want. So
I would rather do it together myself.
Oh, okay, sure. Just if everybody can remember what all 4 of those were, I'm happy to remind them, but.
Yeah, well, I read it, yeah.
Traditionally, the chair goes last, but if you want to go through
No, I'm saying I'll wait until the end of all 4, and, because my comments are global.
Sure.
And I read everything.
well, there's only 3 of us that aren't on the subcommittee too, so we.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Figured
Yeah,
we should.
however we want to do this, I may be over organizing. So.
I'm assuming Matt is in line with, you're in line. with-
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So are you okay if I keep going then?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So for the second one, inclusionary zoning, the other cities around us, what do they do? Like, Cupertino and Los Gatos, like what's their inclusionary zoning? And then just netting out, like, what do we think the net impact of is this towards our housing or our fees? Like, what are we actually swapping here to do it? Like, back of the envelope, I think is okay, but like, I don't know at first blush, what this like would do to like our arena numbers, for example.
Yeah, the basic idea here is we'll try and see what San Jose's permitting looked like before and after January of this year. As I understand, they had a lot of stuck projects which got unstuck, which is kind of what we have. There's a reason why, like, the project that's it's not even an inclusionary zoning project, but the Winchester project is stuck. The project, the Del Grande project is stuck. Pretty much any stack flat project in the city is stuck. So if I will attempt to net that out, and the conclusion is pretty much going to be 10% of something is a lot better than 15% of nothing.
That's the bottom line. That's the thing, is you can put a set a rate
Yeah, but
and not get any.
does the lower number get them unstuck?
Yeah, I mean.
We know that.
Well, that's what.
San Jose-
Well, that's the data point.
So that's what we're going to be looking at. I've seen reports that said San Jose really did this and it worked out, but obviously I'm trying to get in touch with somebody from planning there. But I will try to quantify the trade-off involved. Yes.
There is somebody online, so whatever point you want to allow public comment on the item, just letting you know.
Okay.
Let me know when is a good time for that.
Why don't we all go? And,
Okay. Okay, the person online, hopefully they can wait a bit.
For the third one,
the ADU exemptions.
The 80, well,
the micro unit exemptions.
Micro unit exemptions, it would be, this again would be very back of the envelope-y, but just trying to quantify how many units would this have impacted up till now, or, from a couple developer conversations, how many future looking ones, and roughly what are we talking about in park fees? Because it seems like this one is just basically a direct trade-off of, we think this might boost our housing number at the expense of park fees, but I don't know what the exchange rate is. So
yeah,
it's
what's
hard.
the elasticity?
Yeah, so it's difficult in isolation to be like, well, of course we should do this because I don't know how big is this relative to the park fees that we'd be generating. And then the last one, I guess on the last one, maybe not a data question. The council was pretty firm, the city was pretty firm. I don't quite understand, what are you saying from a policy perspective?
So first off, city was not pretty firm. 40 people who showed up were pretty firm.
The city council was
The city council was firm, and the 40 people who showed up, okay. So what
the body that were the advisory body to voted 4-1 on it. So
Yes.
I'm trying to understand what
the underlying thing that they voted for was, we don't want Sacramento dictating that we have building in our city.
Amen.
So I'm saying we can decide that Sacramento may say that they want to put 4 to 6 story buildings in there, but we can also say, hey, you could build townhomes, which are a gentler form of density. I realized everybody was torches and pitchforks about townhomes, but boy, if you think they were mad about that.
maybe it's just how it's written. As I look at this, it's written in a way I don't understand what we're trying to allow.
Okay, where in the area where SB 79 applies, that's around our train stations. As of July 1st, you can build a stacked flat apartment building, 4 to 6 stories, I believe.
Right.
In that area. This is
Even
saying
higher.
5 to 7.
It's 5 to 7.
Sorry, 5 to 7. In that area, we're saying if you can already do that, you should also be able to do the concurrent permitting to make it easier to build townhomes.
And how does this relate to the simultaneous demolition that I think was?
That's the thing. That's the streamlining. So we would allow simultaneous demolition and construction permitting, which is what allowed those projects to be feasible.
That's the grease that makes this.
Does SB 79 allow demo and construction permitting of the tall things?
So you can get your building. I actually don't understand how permitting works in this sense, but the thing that makes SHRA projects difficult to do is that you can't get your building permit unless it's a vacant site. I think you can't get a construction loan until you get your building permit. But if you buy the land, you can get a building permit for it, and demolishing the structure is a prerequisite for that. But SB 79 projects cannot only be built on vacant lots. That's why this is actually.
Say it again?
SB 79 projects do not require the lot to be vacant.
Right.
They don't need, they would need the demolition permit, but those are not hard to get. It's not impossible for them to say, oh, no, you cannot take out this structure. They can take out the structure so they can build 5 to 7 stories.
I think maybe it's just then the way it's framed, unless I am misinterpreting it, because the way you're framing it is basically like, hey, SB 79, instead of the monoliths, we want to let people build townhomes just as easily. But it's sort of addressed in this thing that sort of became a third rail issue for the city. And
But can I get
Yeah, go ahead.
educated
Yeah,
on this
go ahead.
particular
Yeah, yeah.
point? Rob, so my understanding was that the demolition permit was not an automatic approval when an existing structure was present on the property. Is that changed?
So just to frame this, we're talking about starter homes. Yeah, and just in the SB 79 area, you, starting July 1st, Mr. Buckminder's right, you, in a single family district that's in SB 79, you have a variety of options, but you could do an SB 79 project, which allows you to do up to, 80 units per acre. If you could assemble the parcels, you can elect to do that. The city has to approve it. Per the starter home owners separately, you don't have to mix these together. You can do a starter home project, which is up to 10 units on one property. The action that's been coming before council is the city can't deny starter home projects. It must allow them if it meets all the standards. But what's been the rub and discussion with city council is the vacancy required. State law says the property must be vacant. Originally acknowledging that in this city, anyone who owns property can apply for, obtain a building permit to demolish a house and render it vacant. Our original ordinance said it didn't have to be vacant when you applied. You could demolish the house during the process.
Okay, but when you use the word vacant, you mean free of structure, not empty of occupancy.
Yeah, vacant can mean two things. The plain definition, no structures on the property, or a structure that's been, I'll use the term red tagged by the building official. So it's uninhabitable.
But unoccupied.
Yeah, it cannot be occupied.
It's deemed uninhabitable.
By some
That's
definition.
the term, they deemed uninhabitable.
Well, but that's where the rub, because I don't have an opinion about this. I'm trying to understand that a property owner couldn't purchase a property that had an existing structure in compliance that was occupied, and then evict the occupant, apply for the demolition permit in conjunction with a mandated approval, and be off to the races?
Okay, let me make sure I understand this. That you could buy a property that's occupied by, there are protections for tenants on properties. I don't have all the details before you, but if you own a property that is tenant occupied, there are protections given to tenants.
What if it's owner occupied?
Owner occupied, those protections don't exist.
So that's
Sell
where
your
the
own
rub
property,
was.
yes.
You're removing a unit from the housing stock to replace it with higher density housing. And the wrench in the works was the denial of the demolition permit. And this removes that wrench in the works ministerially, correct?
I think the intent was to streamline the process, knowing rather than buy a property, apply for a demolition permit, demolish it, come back. There could be blight. The developer could walk away, you could have blighted properties, and then do a starter home project. The intent originally was to put that all together.
Yeah, but the fireworks was over, when you make this an act of ministerial approval, then it's more easily abused. And I'm trying to wrap my head around where does the form of abuse that we should be cautioned about in this steamroller of events? Because the end result is very high density housing.
Well, again, there's two buckets. Bucket here, starter home allows up to 10 units on a single family property. That's generally townhomes.
Yeah.
Qualified as high density or not, that's up to you. State generally does it.
Well, yeah.
SB 79 allows very high density. I think most folks would agree with that. It's a stacked flat project up to 75 units per acre.
And the only thing stopping that was the demolition permit, correct?
No, 79.
Yeah, for the starter homes, the question is, how do you get to the process of demolition? So at this point, the council has given direction that you would have to render the property vacant to start. So today you could come in, buy a property, apply for demolition permit, render the property vacant, apply for a start home project. Under our ordinance, we do that. They've given us direction to come back with a demolition control ordinance that says if you come in and apply for a permit to demolish a home, you can't render it vacant. You have to replace it with another home or a spin out.
Okay,
And we're
that's
waiting
what
on
I'm
some, on state HCD advice.
At the end of this work, as well intentioned as is, I don't want to go back and present to the city council like we're not listening.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea here is that city council's direction was, we don't want big projects and more homes. The state is where the state is mandating that we accept bigger projects and more homes, we're providing full off-ramp or still more homes, but maybe not as high density. I feel like the city council should go for that. But I think that requires me to.
But I read
gently
your
sell it.
proposal to suggesting that we go back to what we had done with regards to the ordinance and reallow this to happen, bypassing the vacancy requirements.
Yeah, in light of.
I understand, but I'm not convinced that we really understand the implications of SB 79. In theory, they could go into, because it's in a half-mile radius, go into a street in downtown here, buy up multiple properties, and put up a 5-story building right here, okay, right next door, in the downtown single-family neighborhoods. That's in theory, okay? Now, I'm not convinced that that's what developers are going to do. I think what they're going to do is buy up stuff like, where we have light industrial, on the edge of town, like by Railroad Avenue and Selmar, and where there's a whole bunch of mishmash of properties, and buy all those properties and potentially put up a 7-story place, okay? Not necessarily in a single family neighborhood, okay? Now we're at risk of it being in a single family neighborhood because of the radiuses. We're disproportionately affected because we got 3 light rail stations that if you do that half-mile radius, it covers all of downtown, including the neighborhoods. And the Winchester, Bud, Rincon area because of that station. And so that neighborhood is affected. There may be even some other, as well as the south end of downtown area too. So in theory, there could be these big buildings, but I don't know if, and I don't know if what we're saying we're doing can be in lieu of 79 requirements. Does this block them from doing it? If we write it doesn't block them. So we say, well, you can do this, but it's not really going to matter. The 79 is still going to be implemented. So why would we do it? All it seems to me is that we're going back and exacerbating this thing with putting up to 10 units in a single family neighborhood without really blocking SB 79.
We're providing an alternative, but I do agree, like, this is the only thing we can do. If city council says we don't want more density, we can't obviously refuse to comply with SB 79. What we can do is provide an alternative for developers. I think that's
but
worthwhile.
the developers that are putting in 10 units are not the same developers that are building 7-story buildings, I don't think. To me, it's a different circumstance in terms of
it is,
the
but
developers.
it's the same parcels of land.
I understand, but it's not the same. It's not the same kind of people that are getting involved in doing that development, as far as I could tell.
But see, what was lost in this conversation is we need to produce units. You're coming up with,
Well, I don't think we need to produce units by any means. This is my philosophical position. I don't think we need to produce units by any means by going into single-family neighborhoods and converting them into 6-plexes, 8-plexes, and 10-plexes in the middle of the neighborhood. We have plenty of places where we can build units. We're not going to meet the RHNA no matter what we do, okay? I know that sounds negative, but I knew this the moment we finished the element, okay? There was no way we're going to meet 2,900 units in Campbell.
in 8 years. We are at the 3-year mark, right? And we've got 250 units, 300 units? I mean, come on. The number is unattainable, okay? And now 79 gives it some opportunity if they're going to build these big buildings near the light rail. But, you know, the math doesn't really work in terms of the time frame. We're almost halfway through the cycle, and all we got is a few hundred units, okay? And by the way, Adam, it wasn't 100 units. There wasn't 100 units in the as a result of the starter homes. Half of them were on multi-use zone, which is not an issue. Those 7 or 8 of them were on multi-use zoning, and those are going through. They're not single-family homes. There's 7, used to be 8. One's got withdrawn. 7 of them total 56. Okay, so it's not 100. You keep saying 100. Okay,
No,
it's not 100. Okay,
SHRA has been very
everywhere you
helpful for the
write, you
city.
say 100. Okay.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
so
Thank you for
the
clarifying
point I'm
that.
trying to make is I don't see us doing this to negate SB 79, and all it does is create this additional potentially devastating thing to single family neighborhoods. I think we need to, we're supposed to be able, the option of writing, I saw on wherever I saw it, a summary of SB 79 where the city has an option to write a plan.
Yes, an Eck House plan, which would cost
Right?
us several $100,000, and I think the city is a little hesitant to do that given our budget woes.
Well, considering what SB 79 could do,
We
it
would
seems
just
to
be
me.
moving density here to there. We'd have even higher density in some places. When you say you don't want it in the single family neighborhoods, we don't have that much that's not single family neighborhoods, which is kind of why this happens. And the single family neighborhoods are right next to the train station. So I think this discussion's got a little broader here.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm very uncomfortable with that whole area. Okay, I'm a little bit more comfortable with reducing the percentages.
Okay.
From 15 to 10%. That would be only on rentals?
It would be both on rental
Rentals
and
and for
purchase.
sale, both? Okay. I'm more comfortable with
I
that.
think I can bridge this.
Yeah, but bridge our gap.
Okay, so I'm hearing both of you and I'm agreeing with both of you, which is impossible.
Yeah, really.
But my opinion is that this off-ramp idea, I don't know, we gotta come up with a phrase for it. I believe that every one of those that gets built will not become a high-rise because they're gonna go find a cheaper piece of dirt to put the high-rise on. So in that way, every one of these off-ramps is a little bit of help from what could be a terrible disaster, as much as I don't like it. So I think in that, there might be a good way to bridge it. Now, what I'll say to you is, as much as you're right about the whole place being filled with single-family houses, tell that to the neighbor, somebody who just invested a lot of money and just saw 10 to 30% of the value walk away because we had to do what we had to do. And I just don't like seeing victimization of neighbors. This, for a citywide problem. Now, I don't have an answer, but I'm just saying, I'm very sensitive to that and why I don't like to see that to somebody who's just living their life. And next thing you know, ta-da, you got no choice. Here you go. If you don't like it, move. Here's your capital gains and get out. That's just not how you should treat people who have contributed to the community. And you saw them here today for 50 years. Well, sorry, we need your house. Get out. You can either, join them, make some money, or just sit next to a deck overlooking your pool. I just don't like it.
I understand there's something to be said for stability. And if somebody grew up here and everything was the same for 70 years, it's going to be pretty shocking when things change.
And change is okay, but this isn't incremental.
No, I think it's kind of like we've pulled the rubber band back for the last 30 years and the situation's
But
gotten
tell
worse
that to
and
the
worse.
one guy. Now, we should all suffer the snap, not the guy who just got picked.
I mean,
until we
you
hit
think
our
it's bad to
2,000
live-
units or whatever we're gonna get.
Do you think it's bad to live next to a townhouse? I have to live inside one. Can you imagine how terrible that is?
No, I'm talking, but you
All right,
you chose that.
Yeah.
The guy next to you didn't.
So just maybe going back to your original point,
Yes.
I think I'm with Zisser. I hate to say that, but
Commissioner Zisser.
Douche.
I've been called sister a lot.
I'm interested in in your 1 through 3. I'm interested in them contingent on data and city comps of like, not just San Jose, like what are our other local cities doing? To make a recommendation that I would feel like was backed by data. I'm also uncomfortable sort of wandering into 4 because it feels like something we need to be very intentional about. So I don't know if there's a way you can write what the proposal is or explain like how we're thinking about it in the context of all the public comment, but like that one at the moment, I don't feel comfortable making a recommendation on, barring some rewrite or revision that makes it clearer.
We basically be throwing chum to the public.
Right, which doesn't.
Who doesn't like a little chum?
Yeah, so like I would not, given the volume that we've seen and that we're an advisory board to the council, I wouldn't be supportive of that.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
So let's move off of item 4. So does anybody else have any particular objections to, or I think that's a great idea for changing the level of discretion pending, like looking back at the last.
I do.
Yeah.
So I have the two comments I had when I made them, as I just read everything, were on the one hand, all these suffer from, I'd like something about all of these to talk about where the public input would be when we have ministerial changes. You know, when we go from discretionary to ministerial, I really don't like the closing of the democratic door where people can't address their government because we've removed the forum by passing it to ministerial. And so every one of these, I would like there to be a comment about where the public goes to issue its grievances, if there are any.
There aren't any. I totally agree with you. That's the problem.
I know, but I'm in favor of the work because I get like I'll take the deal I got to take as best I can with this off ramp and this stuff, even though if I had my way, I wouldn't do any of it. But in the middle of taking that deal, because I got to take it, I don't want to mute the public if I don't have to. And so that's my comment too. Is there a place for that in these?
So I think the public does get notified, like people nearby do get notified. They can absolutely contact the developer. They can request an appeal. They can it's not like they can't contact anything. The reason why staff has talked about this, the reason why I think it's counterproductive sometimes to have these discussions is that people show up understandably thinking this is a place to bring my ideas and so forth, but to hear, we can't do anything about that.
Yeah, but I think that's a failure of government to not properly educate the public on how and where to get their say in.
And if I can address that, these laws come from state, right?
Yeah.
Who are the state people? They are the former local city council people that have gone on and become state representative. It's the same people that used to represent Campbell and San Jose. And so those are the guys that go up and go to state. And then from a state, they look at the problem and they go, we got to do something. And they full well know what Campbell is like because they used to be the former mayor and council member and planning commissioner for Campbell before they went up.
One guy.
Well, no, it's not just one guy. There's more people.
Well, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about one guy.
But if you look at the vote of that, but if you look at the vote of that one guy is supporting all these laws because
I understand it.
Because
but the
there's a
point is,
problem to be
the
solved.
point we were talking about was about whether or not the public still gets an opportunity to hear. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I totally agree with Phil on this.
I feel like I deserve that.
So yeah, that's where, you know, my and I've mentioned it again tonight. My problem has been the major and minor thing that we have this. I assume the city decided this is major and minor. Major is 5 acres, 700 feet. Okay, that's really large for Campbell. Okay, 5 acres and 700 feet. There's like two developments.
We will see a few projects
in the last 4 years. Okay, so I would prefer we move minor, drop it down, or drop it up, drop it down to a major, drop it down, so that, you know, it includes. I personally believe that Virginia Avenue, this one, I don't know if Llewellyn was a major or minor, but there's a lot of ones where there are 40, 50, 60, 80 units or even 100 units that are considered minor, which would be totally ministerial. And I have a problem with, no offense, leaving it up to Rob and Daniel to just decide this is okay. Okay, without
clear,
any,
We're not
you know,
deciding whether it's okay.
Well, of course they are. They're going over it and
No.
seeing if it.
We are
if
not
it's-
deciding if it's okay.
I know we're not deciding, but I just have a problem with there not being an opportunity to be.
Yeah.
I also have a problem with the fact that we don't get to see it early. And I don't know if we can do anything different about that, but I would prefer ideally to see the bigger projects, not as big as the ones that we say are big, to be able to look at them early. It's
can
only
sign up
one,
for
it's only
the-
one meeting. They keep talking about, we have a limit of 5 meetings, so I don't know where the other 4 meetings are.
Sign up for the DRC emails. When new projects come in, you can get a copy of the plans and everything. I'm signed up for those.
So I do think
But I'm
we're
on the
starting-
commission. I want to see it in a public forum.
We're debating this like we're about to vote on it. We're not. So,
Okay.
But I just want to get out my.
no, but it's like, we're gonna come back.
I
on
have a
this.
sense of the commission that this is, so my sense of this is that this is, like, there is some support for this, but it is also somewhat controversial. And the thing that some people want is to make sure that people have some form to voice their grievances, whether or not anybody is forced to act on them.
Well, even if you tell them it's in Sacramento, I don't have a problem telling them your fight is with Sacramento.
Right.
But tell them, get
Sure.
it out there more.
I mean,
You
the
know?
vast majority of people that come in here don't know anything about this. And at the very least, we're educating.
Yeah.
Okay? And so the other thing I want to make sure I get included is, reading through your thing, you obviously spent a lot of time on it. And I understand.
I'm going to be
But
rewriting it from
there's a
scratch,
fair
by the
amount of
way.
editorialism in there that I would not approve of. When you start talking about we should be doing a parcels tax instead, I don't want to be involved in recommending a parcel tax instead. That's, you're editorializing your personal opinion about how that should be fixed. I'm uncomfortable with seeing those kind of
That is
comments.
absolutely
in it.
noted. I will, when I bring this to around next time, it will be a lot shorter and be stripped down to pretty much just the facts and supporting data.
So can I get
So, thank you for the
my
note.
other lick in for the other point?
Sure.
Okay, this one might help you. So, I'm in the middle of this scenario that we're doing. I'm really sensitive to what happens to the neighboring property owners and the community at large, specifically with the parking, the traffic, and the things you get no say about anymore. But when we build new units to get new people in here, people are going to do what people do, and all these things that are concerns about them going places, driving, going to work. It might be better for the other subcommittee, but I think this whole work from home ought to be fully embraced to the extent necessary, because hand in hand with the crisis that says we need units ought to be the crisis. We got to let people live in the least impactful way for the city and neighbors possible. So if it's a personal services business, ministerial approval, absolutely. You whatever you do in your house, and I love the idea of, only 2 customers, clients, whatever at a time in your house, whatever.
Seems
Great.
sensible. It should go to the permit streamlining.
Totally. And
committee.
just say, you get to do that. Because that means there's no traffic impact. And what a blessing that is to mitigate what is construction. So we should say, we want you to come work from home in our city, because if you don't, you come here and work somewhere else, and there's all the trouble. That was it. That's the best.
I would be wondering how many people actually have a home occupation permit to do homework anyway. So I don't know.
And we
You
seem
know, I
to
never
be
even
getting
heard.
away from what was agendized.
There we go.
tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're getting into.
All right, so.
Do you have what you need
occupation
now?
business.
for
I
your
have
bit?
one more quick, so I just
Yes.
need to get, I'll need you, opinions on the inclusionary zoning percentages.
And I think you guys are the right guy doing the right work, and I want to encourage the fact that you're doing it, because it's pretty thankless, and I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
That's a good call, and I should have acknowledged it as well. Thank you for doing the work. We jumped into the questions.
Oh,
I appreciate it.
absolutely. I will do as much
Yeah.
homework as is required just to fix this thing.
All right.
Lastly, I just have the ADU, the micro units under 700 square feet. You said you wanted to see some modeling of how that would impact. Is there any other things that people would like to see or objections, or I think this is a good idea?
I need the number to know if it's a good idea.
That's absolutely valid. That is all I need. Let me just make really sure I have everything. Can I just really quick run this back to make sure nobody has objections? I'm going to be.
Why don't we do the public comment?
Oh, yes, please, public comment. I'm terribly sorry, person from the public. I forgot you were there.
John Pringle, if you are still available or interested in speaking, you've been unmuted.
Yeah, my name's John Pringle. I'm with Acuity. You've met me. I'm a consultant on the Barbano Place site, now Hickory Pit, Chevron service station. Hey, so I'm extremely excited that Commissioner Bookbinder's subcommittee and that you all have worked on is coming forward with something that could meaningfully cause projects to get built. The inclusionary housing requirement is extreme and onerous. Personally, I don't believe the few sites available in Palo Alto or Cupertino where rents are $300 to $500 higher than Campbell is the only comparison. I strongly encourage you to look what San Jose did to suddenly stimulate 9,000 units getting approved that were shelved for years. Number two, park fees. Mr. Chairman, you wondered about the effect of park fees on my project. It's $7.6 million. If I don't get an exemption for the small units, which we've planned, which is already compromising our project, but cutting the park fees on small units goes towards making the project feasible. The city would still get, on our 324 units, the city would still get $3.5 million. That's not chump change. And thirdly, I don't want to lose my total thought. On the ministerial approach, I'd like to comment as a developer. I concur with Commissioner Sizer or Sizer, how you pronounce your name, sir, that projects should come for concurrence in some way to the Planning Commission. Now, concurrence may not be binding, but I think you have the right to have 2 or 3 concurrence presentations. And it's.
I'm just going to real quick. My understanding is the sense of the commission is you would like, so on point 1, moving approvals down, you would like information on how many are modified or objected to in some way, and there's some concern about how can we get public feedback and ideally get public feedback without delaying every project for 2 months, which is roughly what it takes to do this kind of hearing. Secondly, inclusionary zoning rates, you would again like to have some data on how this took effect in San Jose, like survey what other cities are doing, although note that the rents there tend to be higher, which make it easier to pull more out of projects. About the exemptions, we'd like an estimate of how many this would impact, how would this impact production, what's the actual elasticity involved. I have to know, I think I have to talk to some developers about this. I'll see what I can get quantitatively. And about the SHRA projects, there's a lot of skepticism here. And I think unless I can come up with a real good way to sell this, I will likely drop this before it comes back. But I will be bringing this back with a much shorter document, which says basically what's the goal, what are the constraints, what are the changes we're proposing, and what is the data backing up what we expect to happen with these changes, or why do we think these are good ideas? And that should be about it. So it should be considerably, I will drop the editorializing. Thank you for that. Also a note, we are continuing to investigate permitting timelines. We believe that better coordination with the fire department is key, as we heard tonight, but I don't have anything that we're confident enough to present this time. So what we have here, this may not be the last tranche, but this is certainly the first tranche of things that we can do that requires minimal staff time and minimal money from the city. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Okay. All right, now 45 minutes on the second subcommittee.
Nope.
All right, we are moving on to the report of the Community Development Director.
Oh, you would like me to give me a little, you want me to give a little update? A
Oh,
3-minute update?
no, I mean, no, I don't.
We're still working.
Yeah, I know,
on it. We've gathered most of our data. We just gotta put it all together.
Well, I'm very excited about
20 seconds.
it. Director Easterwood.
Sure, I'll keep this generally brief. One, bit of advice, which the commission knows, the state. So any ad hoc committee work and subsequently, so for process, ad hoc subcommittees have to report to the commission. There's no path where an ad hoc subcommittee is going to go directly to council. I've been asked that question 3 times. I want to make that clear. That ad hoc subcommittee work has to go through this commission. If there's an affirmative vote of this commission to forward it to the council, we can talk about that. So, I've been asked that a couple times. And 2, I would say in your work, make sure you stay within the 4 corners of your charter. Zoning, land use, general plan, to put a pin more discussions of, think about putting different bond measures on the ballot or something that's a broader. I caution hard on the commission way in the areas that are in the 4 corners of what the commission is. So that's my advice back on your ad hoc subcommittee work. That being said, I'm always appreciative of if the work tailors with the work plan and what we're doing, it's great research and support that moves the city forward. That's my professional opinion.
So can I ask a quick question?
Sure, go ahead.
So in terms of staying within our bounds, the issue about, I mean, you had said when the park fee thing came up at first, it was actually not within our bounds. Now, does that mean we can or can't recommend a change to the park fee?
I think you could. My intent there was to give you education. Yeah. And so you see one side of this. You see developers that obviously have to make a bottom line to produce housing, and the city wants housing, and a large park fee impacts their bottom line. Obviously, a reaction would be to reduce that park fee. There is no free lunch, as you've heard from our Recreation and Community Services Director, Public Works Director, staff, and you'd hear from council members. If we don't have those fund revenues, we can't provide those park services. So my intent is to give you education so you understand the totality of what that means. But I think you, as park fees, as part of your development review process, and it's what they pay, I think it's generally within realm that it's something you could advise. But it affects a lot of the city far and beyond zoning in general.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to know whether
No,
we
it's
should
good. It's a
even.
great question. Yep.
Can I ask about does the city approve new development, HOA CCNRs? Is that within the city purview?
We have.
Where does that happen?
Bill's going to weigh in, but we have the opportunity to, it's in our police powers to ensure there's something there that affects the city. We have ability to review and condition them in certain. So.
Yes, and things are a little different than when I started here. We used to have standard conditions that were required to be incorporated into CC&Rs. I have seen a couple of those related to townhome developments. But since we are required to have objective standards and only impose objective standards that are knowable by the developer and the city at the time of submission of the application, I'm not sure that our current requirements for CC&Rs meet that standard. I'd have to check.
Can you speak to where it's approved?
Is familiar with our requirements for CC&Rs currently.
I think part of it is ensuring that the CCRs don't have actions that conflict with any ordinances. And if there's something we need to ensure.
But who does that? Who actually signs saying okay or not? Where does that happen?
It comes, once the project's approved, they're required to send the CC&Rs to the city staff to review and approve.
And so is that you would approve it?
It's, the administration, the director or to planning staff.
It's usually referred to my office for review for compliance with the conditions of approval.
Because the suggestion about the parking on the tandem thing I thought was fantastic. And I'd like to add no restrictions on work from home in the HOAs, which I have seen myself. No prohibition from that kind of stuff, which would be counter to what I was talking about.
Usually there's a clause you can't have in your CCNR, something that's in conflict with the Campbell Municipal Code. So.
Yeah, but the municipal, I would go right to this
Well,
and say,
yeah, I know, but
looks compliant to me.
It's modified all the time. If you listed every single provision, it'd be very long.
But they are. I mean, they're hundreds of pages. What do you mean? I'm not getting a clear answer out of you. Are you saying that you're not willing to make sure that there's not a prohibition on work from home?
I'm saying it's something we could look at, but ultimately there's a multitude of city laws that you have to. So the question is, what would be required for you to pull out the CTRs that are listed as a matter of compliance?
I mean, it would require an ordinance revision in any start.
Well, just that not have it in the CCNR wouldn't mean you'd have to do anything, but not have it in the CCNR.
Well, then
That's
you
all I'm
wouldn't have notice of a provision in the municipal code that imposes those same requirements.
But now, what are you talking about? So if you have, in this example, a CCNR that says no working from home, and you have the municipal code that says no working from home, in this example, you got to change two things later. If you guys make sure it's not in the CCNRs, when and if the municipal code changes, you're just done, which I think is a wiser way to go about this in this day and age. And I'm asking if you'll do that or not.
I think we may be a little far afield. A little bit, yeah. I can report back. I'm ready to do my report out. Separately, we generally only implement what's in the municipal code today, Commissioner Hall. So if it's in the municipal code, staff would implement it. If it's not, we have to change the municipal. Okay.
Do the report?
Sure.
Yeah.
At the council meeting last week, 3 items of note to the commission. Council did extend the interim ordinance for SB 79. So that includes the exclusions of historic properties and the distances from the light rail stations. That remains in effect. The city did authorize receipt of a general plan amendment at 480 Chapman. So this is a property that has been zoned commercial and general plan commercial for many years. Has a single family home on the property. I think through multiple owners, it's never manifested as a commercial property. They're intending to do an addition to the house on the property as it's zoned commercial. They're prohibited from doing so. So they've applied to change it to residential. City council authorized that to come in. So at some point in the future, that's just an entry door to apply for a general plan amendment. You'll actually see the process of the application.
Okay.
Last but not least, but not insignificant, the council did adopt its fiscal year 27 budget. To educate the commission on when you hear from me on the amount of resources and what we focus on, the stick behind that, I'm more than happy to come back with you on the adopted community development department work plan. Just you're advised on what we're working on and what you'll see over the next year. I could do that the next meeting or the meeting after. And last but not least, as mentioned, we are down to 2 planners at this point. I am happy to report we are in the recruitment process for 2 additional planners. Interviews are ongoing over the next few weeks, and cross your fingers, we'll have good candidates. Best case scenario, if we find good candidates, likely hired in July, August timeframe.
Oh, good.
How about the planning commission?
Don't have any new news. Yeah.
Because I have to reapply in August, so I mean, we're coming up on that.
Sure.
Do they still have 2 candidates that they're considering?
It's the last news I have. Yeah. The clerk has been out sick. I've been on vacation. Until about a few days ago. For the next commission, I can ask again on status, timeframe.
All right. Well, with that, at 9:50 p.m., I adjourn this meeting of the Planning Commission, and we'll meet again. What is the date?
14th, I think.
July
14th.
14th.
If there is a.
No.
Yeah, you get it right. Okay.
It's a council meeting, but that was canceled.
Yes, it will be July, sorry, 1 second, 28th.
Okay, we're not doing one.
There was a conflict with the council.
Oh,
meeting,
that's right.
so next meeting is July 28th.
Okay,
Oh, so I will have.
Alan, you're hearing that, right?
July 28th.
Okay, not, just making sure. All right, have a good night, everybody.
Inside joke.
I don't want a third email from you.